Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the WWE Survivor Series post-show here on the Ringside Report Network. Let's get Johnny North in here. Let's get this thing started.
In the streets.
We're in the streets.
The back streets.
Survivor Series.
We are the Backstreet Boys.
Whoa, I wouldn't say that. Where is my thing? I'm trying to find John. We'll find John in a second. Where is he? There he is. Hey, there he is.
Big man.
Big Johnny.
What's up, NSYNC?
In sync clown posse, more like.
How come I never heard that at the time those bands were big?
I don't know, but that's my Halloween costume next year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dress up in like a suit, like white suit, and then the face paint, and I'm gonna be in sync clown posse.
I thought of one too. Stone Cold Steve Austin Powers.
Ooh, that's a good one. Just bald, vest,
Bad teeth.
glasses, maybe wig, vest, teeth.
Yeah, glasses.
Like face, Austin Powers, body, Stone Cold.
And then catchphrase, oh, hell yeah, baby.
That's good. All right, John. That's what we're on tonight. WWE Survivor Series went down tonight. Shout out to everybody watching us live. Join.ringsidereport.net if you are not a member. We need your mic closer to your face. Getting a production call already.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Shout out to everybody tuning in. I'm seeing Ryan Katz, Alex Taras in the chat already. If you're joining us live here, I want to know your thoughts on Survivor Series. Score on 10 on this pay-per-view and your match of the night. Although I think it's going to be unanimous for match of the night, although Johnny always surprises me.
I think he'll have a different one.
Johnny's always a surprise. So let's start with the surprise. I want to see what Johnny thought about match of the night. I know what your match of the night was. We were watching the pay-per-view here together, and I'll give it to you, Johnny. I thought it was the main event. I thought it was the men's War Games match, the Bloodline over Team Sheamus. I thought was very good. I thought the finish was very good. We'll get into it. We'll break it all down. But just to start off the show here tonight, my match of the night was the main event. I thought the main event did a lot to improve the overall quality of the show. I thought it was a very good match that elevated the rest of the card. So that was my match of the night.
It was my match as well.
Johnny, what was yours?
Do we have a consensus?
Oh, we don't.
Oh!
I was not a big fan of the War Game matches tonight. Like, I thought the men's was obviously better than the women's match, but that's not saying much. I really thought the War Game matches weren't that good. I was like, I hope this is not going to become a yearly thing, to be honest, because, to be honest, War Games is not that great. Like, I was very disappointed.
I didn't love the women's War Games match, but I really liked the men's War Games match. And it's not that I thought that the men's War Games match was the greatest match I've ever seen. I just thought that it was the best match on the card tonight. So if you didn't like the War Games match, which fine, what was your match of the night? AJ and Finn?
I liked that match a lot, but I don't think that was the best. I honestly thought the three-way match was the best match.
Yeah, that was mine
three-way.
before the main event.
It was all right.
Okay. I thought for a three-way, like, it's been a long time since WWE's done that where it felt like an actual three-way, like, back and forth with the three guys instead of, like, two in, one out. Like, it felt like a real three-way. Like, the ending was a little messed up, but it still didn't ruin the idea. It still worked. Like, I thought the match was fantastic. And to me, the crowd was mainly into that match. Like, most matches, like, the crowd was really hard to get into, it seemed. But that match, they were in from start to finish.
Yeah, were they? I don't know. I thought...
Well, the crowd seemed like fine, but Boston could be a bit like of a harsh critic because they've received a lot of wrestling.
I didn't feel like the crowd was that hot tonight.
I mean, the matches weren't that hot either. They weren't really heating them up for it either. it's a bit of a two-way street.
Well, you got to go from the start. The start kind of, in my opinion, screwed it all up. Because they start with a War Games match right away, and they use the weapons way too early. That kind of killed the crowd a little bit. And then you see nothing to that level of excitement until much later on in the show. That was a huge problem. Like, you shouldn't have started with a War Games match.
But you knew that they were going to. That was always the plan.
Well, they have to kind of space it out, right? If you're going to have 2 War Game matches like this, you have to space it out like that, but you need something else in the card. Like, it doesn't really work, unfortunately.
I don't know. You had to. What's the alternative? Putting them back to back?
Well, I think the alternative is to have some other attraction match, like something like you had that 3-way, but it took us a while to get to that 3-way. We had a bunch of other matches. Like, let's face it, like Ronda versus Shotzi, did that need to be on this card whatsoever? I don't think so.
No,
like,
it felt
you had
like
a lot of dead.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a meaningful match. It was obvious that Ronda was going to win going into it, and it didn't feel special. They had that one spot there where they dove into the crowd onto some plants that were in the front row. That was kind of cool, but other than that, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible match by any stretch, but it wasn't particularly special. The Lashley Seth Theory 3-way was pretty good. It was a solid 3-way match. But I don't think it'll be one of those matches, match of the year contention. I don't think we saw anything tonight that was, match of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree, but I think a lot of people will rate this War Games match high because of the story. I mean, at least storytelling-wise, this was on point for the men's War Games. Like, that was top-notch storytelling. Just in terms of the action, I thought it was kind of all over the place. Like, the ending was fine. Once we got to everyone in the ring, it was fine, but it takes so damn long for us to get to that point. It kind of kills the excitement a little bit, in my opinion. Like, by the time you get there, I can understand why the crowd's dead.
Yeah. I agree with you on the one hand, John, but I don't know how else you do it. And they really didn't have any kind of matches that could help this card. Like, on paper, there was nothing else other than the 2 War Games matches that were big attractions.
Right.
They just didn't have it tonight. But I don't think it was a terrible pay-per-view. Harold Schneider dropping a super chat. Thank you, Harold. You're the super chat leader so far. He's given it a 7 on 10. Shout out to Harold, member of the team. Shout out to Doug Hepburn. Doug Hepburn giving this pay-per-view a 5 on 10. He says the main event was his match of the night, giving the whole show a 5 on 10. Ryan Katz giving it a 5.5. But I really liked the main event. I thought that was the match of the night. I want to start with the main event. Working our way through this card here, a 5-match card tonight. The War Games matches obviously took up the bulk of the time. The women's War Games match
minutes.
was actually a minute longer.
Yeah, so long. Both matches. Like, that's huge. They got to switch it up, War Games, in a sense. Like, it shouldn't be so long. Like, it felt like there's a lot of dead points in these matches, and they have to clean that up. I don't know, like, if they have to start the match earlier or something, or, like, just cut down in terms of the time in between. And I don't know about you. I don't like the idea of the whole, like, oh, everyone has to come in and everyone has to bring in weapons. To me, that also kind of kills the match a little bit. And they did it so early in the women's match, that killed the match. Because once you did that, you couldn't top it afterwards.
Isn't that what they're supposed to do, though?
Mm-hmm. I mean, John, not only are weapons encouraged,
yeah,
they're allowed.
That's right. Classic Batista line.
I'm just saying, 40 minutes, and I think within like 6-7 minutes they were using weapons. Like, that was the huge problem with it. Like, I understand maybe around the 30-minute mark break out the weapons, but to break them out so early, like, they had nothing left afterwards. You could tell, and it was so sloppy. I mean, let's just be honest. Like, I mean, there's a world of difference between the men and women, because, like, the men, at least, it looked like they knew what they were doing. Like, the women, it looked like it was all over the place.
Yeah, at one point, Io Shirai in the corner there, I don't know what happened. She, like, fell off the top rope. It was weird. I don't know what she was trying to do, but Io was in the corner doing some stuff on, I think, Bianca. Did you see that, John?
Mm-hmm. Should I do like a
Was it
handstand?
Bianca?
It was a move that Jeff Hardy would do, where they do like a handstand and they swing down and do a kick.
Yeah, she just fell.
The first time Dakota also gave a kick to Bianca in the corner, so it kind of threw off Io's rhythm. So she went up again, and I think she launched herself too far because you could see she went a bit forward and she lost her balance, and then she kind of went back on her feet, and then she just did a little kick, and it was
the crowd
bold
was
and
mad.
ugly. And Io Sky is supposed to be the one of the vets of this match.
Yeah,
probably has the most wrestling experience of all the ladies in this match.
The moonsault she did off the top of the cage was pretty nice, though. Give her that.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. Bailey almost breaking her neck, though, or it looked like she broke her neck. That wasn't too good.
On the power bomb. You're talking about the power bomb from Bianca Belair? See, I don't even need to ask you what move you're referring to. He's like, oh, Bailey almost breaking her neck. Oh, you mean when Bianca power bombed her straight on her head? That? What happened? My God. It was a little ugly.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. To me, these matches, they're not necessary. You're putting your top talent in this match, and they could get seriously injured for, the littlest things that aren't worth it, that people are barely even noticing. I really don't think War Games is necessary. It's not worth it, in my opinion.
No, we were talking about it on the preview show. I'm not a fan of this War Games. I'm not a fan of having a lot of wrestling in a match that hasn't even started until everybody's in. They don't even ring the bell until everybody's in the match. So what's the point? Why do anything? Why not just wait?
Well, they got to cut down the time there. It's just 3 minutes was just way too long.
Yeah.
It's got to be tighter. The 5 minutes, too, it seems like eternity, and it shouldn't, but it feels like it. So they got to cut that down a bit. Maybe have the weapons already ready or something, because everyone going underneath the ring and trying to find stuff, it seems like that took eternity as well.
Mm-hmm.
They just got to tighten it up a bit. I think it could be better. They just got to work on the stipulations a little bit.
It did take them a while to pull out all those ladders and tables and everything they were bringing out, garbage cans, right? They brought everything out in that match. The women's match, they had all the weapons. Mia Yim got put through a ladder. Alexa and Nikki Cross handcuffed each other and then got put through a garbage can. Becky Lynch won the match with a leg drop off the top of the cage through Io and Dakota through a table. Io and Dakota set up on a table, and then Becky went to the top of the cage, leg dropped them both through the table.
Nice finish.
It was a very good finish. Looked like it hurt Becky more than anybody. Right?
Well, I feel like Dakota, I feel like that killed her a little bit, too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
She took the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really good finish, though, right? The match itself, it was not great. It had some really sloppy-looking moments, but in the end, it was a good finish. Team Bianca beat Team Bailey, and it was over. The finish was good. It was a match that had its moments. Io Sky's moonsault, the Becky Lynch leg drop. The top of the cage spots were very good in this match. Give it that. But
well, I'm not giving it to Nikki Cross. That thing looked bad, to be honest. That took forever for her to finally do it. And let's face it, they cut away, but you could tell people were just waiting to catch her.
Oh, yeah.
That's not good. I'm not giving her that.
Right, I forgot about that one. That was a bad top of the cage spot. You're right. Nikki Cross doing her dive off the top of the cage. She was waiting there forever while her own team was getting beat up 3-on-2. It was 3-on-3 at that point in the match, and two of her teammates were just getting beat up by the three baby faces, and she just sat there watching.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. And you could tell a lot of them were waiting to look like they're in position, and then she wasn't going to jump until that happened too. It's a little bit of the camera fall too, but also the fact that took forever as well. There was just a lot of points where it's this is dragging, and a 40-minute match that's not good. And that starts the show. To me, I understand why the crowd wasn't hot afterwards, because that first match almost killed them a bit.
Yep. It was a lot. It was a lot going on in that match. Big spots, messy spots. And then we went to AJ Styles and Finn Balor, which was, fine. But the match,
great wrestling
match meant nothing.
It didn't. You're right.
The problem was it's just a continuation of the OC versus Judgment Day feud, and it really means nothing in the end. So, the match was very good. Two top-level pro wrestlers. They did what they had to do. AJ Styles hits the phenomenal forearm on Finn Balor to get the pinfall. Good match. Before the main event, this was my match of the night. I was really, pleased with the wrestling contest, but I know that it's not over between these two groups. I think that Gallows and Anderson fought with Damian and Dominic at one point, right? Like they fought off and then they disappeared. So
yeah, that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of Raw and the OC versus Judgment Day feud. And that was a big problem with this match. It's a pay-per-view match. It's the only one-on-one singles match, male singles match on the card, and it just doesn't mean much.
And it should have.
Yeah, it should have meant a lot more.
If you think about it, Finn versus AJ should be a really major match.
They could have put.
Tried, but
they could have put some sort of stipulation on this thing.
Yeah.
Give me not a gimmick, but if I win, I get something. If you win, you get something. Something.
Also,
there were no stakes for anything. Like the War Games matches, when you won, you didn't win anything. Just you won this match.
Right.
Another thing, too, is that Rhea wasn't involved in this match because she was in the previous match. And she's usually the catalyst in Judgment Day matches. Usually something happens because of Rhea's involvement. Like Priest and Dominic and even Finn are just kind of there, and they could easily be beaten on any given night. But if Rhea gets involved, then things can turn in their favor.
But that's because she was in the War Games match opposite Mia Yim.
Who I never even noticed in the match.
No,
I was
but
just oh yeah, Mia Yim's there.
But she's the counter to Rhea Ripley now with the OC. So.
Right. But also having her not involved in this match was just it didn't feel, I don't know, just it felt like something was missing in a way. Not that she should have been, but just the fact that she wasn't booked in there. It's just well, what's Judgment Day without Rhea? They're even more jabronis.
Yeah, what's Dominic Mysterio without Rhea Ripley? Okay, score on 10 on this pay-per-view. We've had our match of the night. We're both giving it to the main event over here in this studio. Johnny North, where he's at, is giving it to the triple threat for the U.S. title with the only title change of the night and a surprise, the only match that we got wrong, right? This is the only match that we predicted incorrectly. We thought that Seth Rollins would retain, and he did not. Austin the Theory is the United States champion once again as they continue to play hot potato with that belt. I cannot tell you how many people have been U.S. champion this year. Well, I could tell you, I think about 3, but I don't know how many times. Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Seth Rollins. It seems to bounce back and forth between these 3 guys constantly. But whatever. Score on 10 on this pay-per-view. I'm seeing a lot of 5s and 6s in the chat, John. Doug Hepburn gave it a 5. Ryan Katz with a 5.5. DJ Dark says a strong 6 on 10. Good main event. But he doesn't really like War Games. A lot of people not liking War Games, which I thought was an unpopular opinion when I expressed it last night on the show, but apparently I am not in the minority not loving this gimmick. Okay, on 10, I'm going to start with you.
Let's see. I mean, I gave Full Gear a 7. I think maybe a 7.5.
I think I gave it a 7 or 7.5, yeah.
I like Full Gear.
Full Gear was pretty good.
And
too long, though. Too long.
It was long.
This was not as long. This was just.
But I've got them both fresh in my mind, so I'm kind of comparing them in the moment.
But this was just over 3 hours, which helps.
It is. But only one match kind of had any kind of remarkable factor to it.
Yeah.
And even then, it was still a War Games match. There was a bit of a slog. So, I mean, I don't know. It's like I'm gonna say 4.5.
Wow, that's
Wow.
pretty low.
Yeah,
That's low, yeah.
I'm gonna say that. Yeah,
Yikes.
because 5 feels a bit too generous to say it's just average. Didn't feel average, and also I don't like having Survivor Series without Survivor Series matches. Call me old-fashioned,
You're old-fashioned.
but I still like the elimination tag team match concept. I think there's a lot of ways you could have storylines or even some like good moments of humor or just a little bit more than just this big car crash match. Like one of my favorite Survivor Series match moments was when Shawn Michaels for Team DX kicked out Mike Knox of ECW right at the beginning, and then he goes to his corner and goes, "Who was that guy?"
Yeah, that was the best.
You know,
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
fun.
lot of moments like that where people who don't often get to interact wrestle each other.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments, it might have been in that same match with Team DX when CM Punk, a young CM Punk who was in ECW, the WWE ECW at the time, was on Team DX.
Yeah,
And they were chanting CM Punk's name, and I remember Triple H and Shawn Michaels looking at the crowd like, this
they were
guy?
in Philly, I think, too.
Yeah, and the crowd was going nuts for CM Punk, and Shawn and Triple H were like looking around like, what the hell's going on here? They didn't even
And
get
I
it.
think Punk cited that moment as like, "Oh, that's when Hunter and Sean had it out for me because they didn't like that I stole their heat."
Which, yeah, that was
Makes
definitely-
sense.
It was a moment.
But
It was
stuff
a
like
moment.
that, there was a lot of
Yeah.
that came from the traditional Survivor Series match, and I mean all throughout history. But yeah, so that brought the score down for me to not having at least one of those kinds of matches.
I don't miss the Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT even theme. Like that whole brand supremacy thing that they tried to put on Survivor Series over the past few years, I think that was played out. But I do agree that the classic Survivor Series match, I think, is fun. I like that it happens every November for WWE. It is a tradition, and I think I like it more than War Games. So hopefully next year we go back to original Survivor Series concept. But a 4.5 on 10 is pretty dang low. I'm seeing people giving 6 on 10, giving did not watch on 10, 0.5 on 10.
Ouch.
Alex
Lowest
Terrace.
score.
Wow, that was harsh.
Yeah, Alex Terrace did not like this one. I'm going to go a little bit higher than my brother, but I did not love this pay-per-view. I thought it was very average. I thought most of the matches were very average, did not feel pay-per-view quality, did not feel like big matches, felt like matches you would see on a everyday episode of Raw.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm a little bit surprised by your choice of match of the night, John, because the Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley triple threat very much felt like a main event of Raw. Did not feel like a pay-per-view match. It felt like, yeah, this would be a, decent main event for Raw, and I'm pretty sure it'll probably happen again on Monday night in the main event of Raw, just to give you
It'll be a rematch.
an
Maybe
example.
a four-way.
Maybe a four-way with Mustafa Ali, but, I think we'll probably see this again. And that's another problem I had with the match is that, at a pay-per-view, I like to see some sort of finality, some sort of conclusion, but I think that the U.S. title will continue to swirl around Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, and Bobby Lashley going forward. I feel like all the matches were very average TV matches except for the main event. I thought the opener was not something you would get on a TV show, obviously a War Games match, but it wasn't great. AJ Styles and Finn Balor could have been on Raw. Ronda Rousey and Shotzi could have been on SmackDown. Austin Theory and Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley could have been a Raw match. And then the only thing that really felt like a big deal, like a match that's supposed to be on a premium live event, was the War Games main event. So for that, I'm giving this pay-per-view a 5.5 on 10. And that's a full 2 points lower than Full Gear. Full Gear, I remember giving a 7.5 on 10 last weekend, and this was a 5.5 on 10. And this would have been a 5 on 10 pay-per-view, but it gets an extra half point because the main event was so solid. main event was very good. But again, the problem with the WWE is not the wrestling. It is not the wrestlers. It is not the people in the ring. It is the booking that does not support them. And the lack of interesting creative in WWE is a real problem and one of the reasons why the show is just so boring and painful to watch. There's one storyline in the WWE that is intricate and ever-changing and growing, and that's the Bloodline storyline. And they did a masterful job of telling that story tonight. In the promos with Jey Uso, with Roman Reigns backstage, in the promo with Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn backstage, and then, of course, in the match where they did a lot of storytelling. And that's the best thing going in WWE. It's the best story in WWE, and you could tell it's the one that's paid attention to the most by the WWE writing team, by whoever's in charge. It's got the most stuff in it. And it's the best thing going, you know? Mm-hmm. It's the juiciest story in the WWE.
And the kind of real, like, conflict.
And you're not sure where it's going to go. There was a moment tonight where I thought the Bloodline was going to turn on Sami Zayn, and in the end, they did not. And it was Sami Zayn showing his allegiance to the Bloodline and taking out his former best friend, Kevin Owens. So the changes, the little twists, it's very well done.
Mm-hmm. And it makes you think, like, why can't more storylines be like that, you know?
Well, that's it.
It can't just be their only, like, if this is the product of them concentrating their efforts, they should be able to spread it out more throughout the roster to be like, okay, well, I have a story for Matt Riddle, I have a story for Seth Rollins, or whatever the hell.
Yep.
It's baffling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost like they have one writer who's dedicated to this, and like they're the only talented writer.
Paul Heyman.
Yeah, he probably has a lot of input.
I mean, it seems like maybe Paul Heyman is concentrating all his creative efforts on the Bloodline storyline, and that's why it's so good, because Paul Heyman is very good. He's very good at wrestling creative, and if he just focuses on one story, well, he can make it pretty damn good. And if they just let Heyman work and do his thing and help develop the story with the characters involved, it works. That's what, I mean, from my perspective, that's what it is. I'm not sure who is all involved in that. Of course, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, those guys are involved, the Usos. But, Heyman seems to be the guy pushing that forward, you would assume. So, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so different than everything else in the WWE. Because it's the only thing written by Paul Heyman, right? And the rest of the stuff is kind of flimsy, right? It's the only thing with real depth. Everything else is kind of paper thin, like the Judgment Day. Compare the two groups. Compare the Judgment Day and the Bloodline. Compare the interpersonal relationships between the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. You know how the Bloodline feels about one another. Mm-hmm. You barely understand, like, what is the relationship between Finn Balor and Damian Priest?
Yeah.
How do they get along? How do they interact? How do they relate to one another? How does Dominic Mysterio relate to Finn Balor? How does it all work? Only this week was it confirmed that Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley are indeed in a romantic relationship. Right? They only revealed that to us this week in WWE because they haven't fleshed out the group, who they are, what they are, or how they relate to one another. And when you compare those two groups, you really see the difference. The Bloodline, you know how Sami feels about Roman. You know their dynamic. You know Sami's got a different dynamic with Jey Uso. You know Jey Uso has a different dynamic with Roman than he does with his brother Jimmy Uso. And Solo Sikoa, he's just the mean guy in the back.
And
right?
even Jay's hostility towards Sami affects his relationship with Jimmy. You know,
of
Jimmy
course.
kind of wonders, hey,
right.
what's up, man? Come on. Let's be on the same page.
Like, Jimmy is Jay's brother, but he also wants Jay to be cool with Sami because Jimmy likes Sami.
Hmm.
You know? Like, And when you have these real relationships on TV, it makes the moments like when Jey Uso and Sami Zayn make up at the end of the match and they hug each other, it makes it a special moment. You go, oh, shit, they hugged. It's all good now because Jey and Sami have been beefing for weeks. But in the match tonight, Sami Zayn, which we'll get into it here, but we haven't got Johnny North's score on 10. So I got a 5.5. You got a 4.5. John, I think you're going to give it a little bit higher. I think you liked it a little bit more than we did. I don't remember what you gave Full Gear last week. I wonder if you liked this more than Full Gear? I mean...
Well, the way I looked at this was the fact that we had Crown Jewel this month as well, if you remember.
Yeah.
And to me, this just kind of solidified the fact that WWE should not do 2 big WWE Premium Live events in 1 month. They can't pull it off. Like, it just feels like one is going to be better than the other, clearly. And, like, Crown Jewel was clearly better than this. So, I mean, they just had the better roster on that show.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it. And, this, to me, War Games just didn't work. That was the huge problem with this. That was the huge gimmick behind it. It didn't work. It was still, like you said, nothing wrong with the wrestling. Just, there's a lot of dead points in War Games. And I feel that's a match that needs to be fixed, in my opinion. So, still a good show overall, but more like a 6.5, I think, on 10.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. That's roughly in the ballpark of where everybody is. A lot of people in the chat going 6, 5.5, 5. In that range. I think Harold gave it a 6. Changed his mind. So it's roughly, in that ballpark. And yeah, I think that's fair. Some good stuff. Nothing was particularly bad,
Right.
Although the opener was not great. Bad in points.
Well, there was some rough moments, but I mean,
I don't think it was a bad
overall,
match. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was
right.
bad, right? Yeah.
Just messy.
Okay. So at one point during the match, Jey Uso and Sami Zayn are pushing each other. They get into it. They're arguing with each other, right? In the main event War Games. Butch ducks a Jey Uso super kick, and it hits Sami Zayn. And Jey just kind of stares at Sami like he didn't intend to hit Sami, but he wasn't mad that he did. And Jimmy Uso got a little bit upset with Jey and kind of pushed him, and then they kept beating up on Pete Dunne Butch. And then Kevin Owens hits a powerbomb, the pop-up powerbomb, and his stunner on Roman Reigns, and it looks like it's over. 1, 2, and Sami Zayn grabs the referee's hand before he can count to 3. So saves the match for the Bloodline and the Tribal Chief. Kevin Owens then argues with Sami Zayn. Sami says, "That's my family. This is my family." And Kevin's like, "That's your family? What are you talking about?" Jimmy Uso goes to super kick Kevin Owens. Kevin catches the super kick. Sami Zayn low blows Kevin Owens, punches him right in his balls, then sets him up in the corner, goes to check on Roman Reigns. Roman tells him to get him. Sami hits his haluva kick on Kevin Owens. Owens is beat up. He's down. Sami puts him down on the mat so that Jey Uso can climb to the top, presents him to Jey Uso so that Jey can hit his top rope splash and get the 1, 2, 3 for the victory for the Bloodline over Kevin Owens. Fantastic finish. Excellently put together. And not only was it great in the idea, in the concept, but the execution of the finish was fantastic. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Jey and Jimmy Uso, everybody had to play their role in the end of that match, in the finish of that match, and they did. Everybody played it to perfection. It was a perfectly executed finish. Very, very nice stuff, and it progresses the story with Sami and the Bloodline. Because, of course, last night on SmackDown, Kevin Owens was telling Sami Zayn that the Bloodline was going to turn on him when he said something or did something that they didn't like, they were going to attack him and toss him aside, and that he should leave them now because they're not really his friends. And then Kevin left, and Jey Uso came out of the Bloodlines locker room and said, "Were you talking to somebody?" And Sami said, "No, I wasn't talking to anybody." So you kind of think, oh, is Sami maybe listening to Kevin Owens and he doesn't want Jey Uso to know? Is Sami believing what Kevin Owens is saying? So then Jey Uso tonight talks to Roman Reigns and says, "Hey, Sami, there's a problem here. He's lying to us. He said he wasn't talking to Kevin Owens, but I know for a fact that he was last night. We got to do something." And Roman says, "I'm going to talk to Sami. I'm going to look him in his eyes, and I'll figure it out." And then Roman and Sami have this great heart-to-heart backstage where Roman asks him, why did you lie to Jey Uso? And Sami says, well, I didn't want Jey to blow things out of proportion, and I didn't want him to get upset. And I wasn't talking to Kevin Owens. He was talking to me. He was saying things to me, saying that I should turn on you guys because you guys are going to turn on me. But my allegiance is to you, and you guys took me in when no one else would. And, he really gave an emotional speech to Roman Reigns about how much he cares for Roman and the bloodline, and how, he's been accepted into their group like family, even though he's not. And you really felt it. It felt real in a way, and it was just an excellent backstage promo segment thing to set up the match and set up the finish that we had tonight. Because after Sami delivers this speech, Roman says, "Okay, get up," and they hug, and Roman hugs him, but there's a look in Roman's eye like, "I'm gonna get you, I don't really believe you." Like there was a look in Roman's eye, and Roman did this perfectly to make you think, oh no, they're gonna win the match and then they're gonna turn on Sami afterwards. But instead, Sami saves the match for the bloodline, sets up the finish for Jey Uso, serves it up on a platter to him, and then after the match, not only does Sami hug Roman Reigns, Roman is very pleased with Sami for winning the match for them, right? And not only did he win the match for them, but he also turned his back on Kevin Owens, the guy who was telling him, the bloodline is bad and we're friends and all that stuff. Sami turned his back on his longtime friend Kevin Owens and chose the bloodline over him, which was a big moment,
Oh, 100%.
Big moments in that match.
Tearing his shirt off, too, just kind of like the passion of it.
Yeah, and they're all with their shirts off posing. They're a group. And Sami hugs Roman, and then Jey Uso goes to Sami, and then they hug, and it's like a big hug, and they're really happy. That was a moment because Jey Uso and Sami, I said weeks, it feels like months that they have been feuding. Like, not feuding, but, they've been having their problems within the bloodline for a long time.
Butting heads.
And tonight, it almost kind of reached a boiling point where they were hitting each other, and Jey Uso super kicked him. But in the end, Sami allowed himself to get super kicked. He allowed Jey Uso to be upset and did what was best for the bloodline and made peace with Jey Uso and set him up to win the match. And Jey Uso was happy with that and hugged Sami. And that was a really good moment. And because they had invested so much time in this story and told it correctly, when Sami and Jey finally get together again, it's like, oh, yeah, all right, that's great. Good for them. It was nice. And then Jimmy Uso comes in, and he's got this whole elaborate handshake with Sami Zayn. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic end to the match, to the night. It was great stuff. It was great stuff. And this is what happens when you really invest in a story. And it's perfectly put together, perfectly done. I loved it. Everybody involved delivered.
But enjoy this while this lasts, of course, because very soon the bloodline will turn on Sami Zayn. I mean, the seeds were planted here tonight. And it's going to happen. It's just not yet. Because Roman, you could tell by that look in his eyes, he doesn't fully trust Sami anymore. And eventually they are going to turn on him again.
Well, how could he not trust Sami after everything Sami did tonight? I think Roman had his doubts about Sammy's allegiances to Kevin Owens, but after what he showed Roman tonight, I think all doubts should be erased. I mean, maybe in the moment he thought, oh, I don't know, Sammy was lying to Jey Uso. Maybe he's lying to me right now. But the actions speak louder than the words. Sami Zayn punched Kevin Owens in his balls, and he kicked him in his face, and he set him up to lose. He picked the bloodline over his best friend, Kevin Owens. I don't know if Roman can still distrust him, you know? I don't know. How do you not trust a guy after that?
Well, we have a long path to WrestleMania, so a lot's going to happen in between then. But I imagine somewhere in between the Rumble and the Elimination Chamber, I'm thinking they'll wait for the turn at the Chamber probably. When they finally make Sammy against the Bloodline, that's probably going to happen there in Montreal. So it's going to be a long build towards it, but I feel like the seeds were planted tonight.
Well, we won't be having the Usos in Montreal, though.
Good point.
That's too bad.
They can't cross the border.
Roman, really.
Yeah. You need to have them there for the turn.
Well, you have them for the match at Mania.
Yeah, John thinks it's going to be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Usos at WrestleMania, which is possible.
Yeah, seems likely. Although it's a bit harder to, like, if they're going that direction, you'd think they would have had the big turn on Sami Zayn tonight and then started that. But I'm sure they could always figure out ways for, Owens and Zayn to become friends again. But
well, how many times is like Kevin stabbed, Sammy in the back? Like,
yeah,
remember their NXT days? Like, before
they can always
that,
find a way to resolve their differences. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could figure out some way, where Sammy costs them a match and then everything is bad again. But I don't see it right now how they're going to get there. It does seem like a logical match to have Owens and Zayn and have him beat the Usos. Like, maybe Roman won't lose his belt at Mania, but the Usos will. A bit of a chip in the armor of the bloodline, but we'll see how they get there. I'm sure they'll figure it out in probably the simplest way.
I don't know. This Sami Zayn with the Usos and the bloodline thing is so hot right now. It might be a mistake to break them up. It's working so well. It's the best thing going. Yeah, but you're talking about by Elimination Chamber, right?
February, yeah.
It's 3 months away.
Yeah, so enjoy it while it lasts. I mean, enjoy these next 3 months.
I don't know.
Now we're getting
the Usos can't.
The Usos?
The Usos can't cross the border. It's not a COVID thing. It's a DUI thing. So.
Well, it's
I don't
a weird
think they
thing
can cross
too,
the border.
When they had Smackdown Winnipeg, one of the Usos was there, one of them wasn't there.
Jay was there.
Yeah,
right.
One of them.
Jimmy can't cross the border. Jimmy's got way more arrests.
Yeah, he's got at least 2.
Yeah,
and pretty heavy ones. I remember those stories.
Yeah, he was belligerent.
Squared up with the cop.
Well, that's when Naomi drove into the wrong direction or something.
That's right.
I think that was that. Yeah.
I don't think Jimmy Uso's getting into Canada anytime soon, but you never know. You never know. I would welcome him in. I don't think he's gonna drink and drive here. Although maybe if he did, he might actually.
Yeah.
And then what if he hurt somebody like Johnny North? I'd be upset. So no, stay out of my country, Jimmy Uso. You're a menace to society.
Rehabilitate yourself.
So Johnny giving it a 6.5. I'm giving it a 5.5, and you're giving it a 4.5. Kind of a scale that we have here. Johnny North, your match of the night was Austin Theory over Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley. Our match of the night was the main event. Finish came when Seth had Theory up in the a Falcon Arrow vertical suplex position, up like this, and then Bobby speared Seth, and Theory fell down onto Seth after he got speared. 1, 2, 3. Theory is the new U.S. champion. Okay.
Well, Theory needed this, though.
Did he?
When you look at it, he lost the Money in the Bank briefcase, right? Everyone's like, oh, he's buried now.
Oh, right.
This, kind of resurrects him a bit now.
Right.
Not saying he's completely.
He did cash in Money in the Bank to try to win the U.S. title, right? So now in the end, right? Yeah, he cashed in the Money in the Bank on Seth Rollins. Failed to win the U.S. title by cashing in Money in the Bank, but now tonight does win. I guess a little redemption for him.
You kind of needed this a lot. So I mean, you talk about how it's in the match, but in terms of Austin Theory, like, he kind of needed this for his career.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I see that point.
I'm just not that concerned with Austin Theory's career. I don't know.
I still think he's the future, but
of what?
Wait and see. Of WWE, I think he can be a future star.
Unless they win the bidding war of 2024, then he's second banana.
But I'm not saying he's going to be the guy in WWE. I'm just saying he's going to be one of the guys, one of the top guys.
I think he'll be one of the guys. I think he'll be Dolph Ziggler's status in 4 years. Yeah,
but Dolph at one point was the world champion, though.
He was
for a week.
World heavyweight champion.
On
SmackDown. On SmackDown. He was a SmackDown champion. He wasn't the Raw champion. He was a SmackDown champion when SmackDown wasn't on Fox, and it didn't mean shit to be the SmackDown champion. Yeah. He was SmackDown champion because Vicky Guerrero gave it to him. Come on, man. That was a long time ago, too.
Oh, I was thinking of the time he cashed in on Del Rio and then dropped it due to injury a week later.
Oh, yeah.
But still, it was, due to circumstances, but still unremarkable.
You're mixing your facts up a little bit. He didn't drop it due to injury. He was injured, but he came back and then lost it to Del Rio. At a pay-per-view. I want to say Money
Swagger injured him, and then Del Rio kicked him in the head, like kayfabe-wise. Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
But he still had his moments where they actually gave him something.
Yeah, okay, but you don't disagree with me that Austin Theory could have a similar career trajectory to Dolph Ziggler, where he's there, he's solid, but he's not permanently at the top of the card. And sometimes he may reach the top of the card, but he also may just hang around the bottom for a while.
It's a good comparison. I could see similar trajectories. I could see Austin Theory in 10 years giving those promos that, it should have been me! It should have been me!
Yeah. Yeah. And if his promos don't get better now, those will be his promos in 10 years because he will miss out on his opportunity because everybody else will pass him by. Because the matches, are solid enough, but the character is non-existent. Who is Austin Theory? He used to be the guy that took selfies. He doesn't do that anymore. Now he's the guy that Vince liked, but Vince is gone, so nobody likes him anymore, and nobody's looking out for him, so he's mad. I don't really know who he is. I don't know what he is, who he is, and when he speaks, I want to stop listening. And that's a major problem. Like, if you're going to be a bigger star in pro wrestling, you got to have something to it, because there's no gimmick whatsoever with this guy. You got to have something.
Well, it seems like he plays Beyblade or something. I don't know if you checked his Titantron.
Beyblade?
What?
Did you guys not see his Titantron?
No.
They aired a Beyblade commercial instead of his Titantron when he came out.
Wow.
And they had this whole entrance and all that. It was I was
still a thing?
What's going on?
Oh yeah.
Apparently,
you spin it at top, and it's like Pokemon, but you spin a top.
I think so.
I didn't know it was like Pokemon. I thought it was just the spin thing.
I think it's Japanese Beyblade.
What the hell?
Oh, did you your echo?
All right. Okay, stop. How do I make that stop?
Okay, Alexa.
Unplug it.
I gotta unplug that thing. What the hell is that?
Yeah,
it's a new thing in here. We gotta get rid of that thing. It's talking to me now. Goddamn, pal.
We didn't even say
goddamn, pal.
I think you said something that sounds similar to it. That's why.
Yeah, well, started answering questions I didn't ask.
Fun times.
All right. And Ronda and Shotzi, it went 7 minutes.
That was bad, though. We said this was wasn't a bad show. Like, that was probably the worst part of the show, sadly.
It had its moments. Ronda had her moments.
Okay, but still, I wouldn't say this was a great match to watch. Like,
No.
why did this match shouldn't have been on the show, to be honest.
They needed another match, I guess.
I like
what
Ronda,
could have replaced it?
She needs better competition, Ronda. Like, this is not competition. Like, at no point, like, to me, like, even the way the match went, like, at no point did Shotzi, like, have, like, you think maybe she might get it here at one point. There's none of that.
It felt like a match that you would wrestle in, like, the WWE career mode in a video game, where it's like, okay, I'm Ronda Rousey, I'm like a 95 overall, you know, you move to SmackDown. Oh, who's my opponent tonight? Oh, okay, I'm going to wrestle Shotzi, a 79 overall, and then you beat them in 7 minutes. Like, maybe they reverse one of your moves, and they get a little offense, they stomp you a couple times, but then you get up and you just hit your signatures, and you're finished. I'm like, and you just move on to the next one.
This guy's played some WWE video games.
Yep.
Except in the video game, that match would be on an episode of SmackDown. They'd have better sense than to book it at Survivor Series.
At SmackDown, you'd face Becky Lynch or something. Like
exactly.
90 overall.
It'd be a bigger match. Except tonight it was Shotzi. And yeah, she had no chance. But like we talked about it when we previewed this show, John. They injured her backup last night on SmackDown. So not only do you not believe Shotzi has a chance when it's just Ronda versus Shotzi one-on-one, but Ronda has Shayna Baszler in her corner backing her up and interfering. So not only is Ronda like way stronger and scarier than Shotzi, but she also has backup, and they got rid of Shotzi's backup on SmackDown. So they really stacked the deck against Shotzi and didn't make you believe for a second that Shotzi had a chance in hell. That's why this match was absolutely pointless. Should have just been on SmackDown, but, you know, they had nothing for this card. They had nothing. They had nothing. They had nobody. They booked nothing. I'm looking at Triple H right now doing his press conference. This guy should be ashamed of himself with the creative that he did going into this pay-per-view. Just absolutely abysmal.
And they had time
to
fill.
High praise.
Huh?
He's giving the whole event high praise.
Of course he is. It's his event. Why wouldn't he give it high praise?
I think I did a shitty jump tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was pretty good. They were all my ideas. I thought it was excellent.
But they...
Oh, man. Did you see Seth Rollins? So good.
They had time to fill. Like, there are how many video packages for wrestlers who weren't even on the show tonight? It was Brock. It was Liv Morgan. It was Miz.
Cody.
That was like 10 minutes in and of itself.
Yeah.
You could have another match.
Video packages for people. But but this is the thing. What other match? There are no other matches.
Ooh, excuse me.
They got nothing going on in this company. They have nothing. What other match could they possibly have done? They could have put Gunther on the show. Yeah. They could have given me Gunther.
Braun Strowman?
Gunther and Braun Strowman. But Gunther is waiting for the winner of the SmackDown tournament, which will either be Rick O'Shea or Santos Escobar. So even though Gunther is kind of feuding with Braun Strowman, like we couldn't have Gunther on the show tonight. Give me Gunther. Gunther versus somebody. I don't care. Braun Strowman would have been nice, but I think they're saving that. But
Riddle.
He would have helped the pay-per-view. You know? Like a match that would help this pay-per-view. It needed something. They thought War Games was that something. Because the WWE has it in their head that War Games is this great attraction that everybody loves. However, it didn't quite turn out that way tonight. I mean, the main event was good, but it wasn't good because it was War Games. It was good because they told a good story. You know?
They could have told that story in a traditional 5-on-5 format.
That's it. It didn't need to be in War Games.
Just to go back, on the Ronda and Shotzi thing.
Yeah.
There was a moment in the match where Shotzi, I think she went and did like a dive to the outside, and like Shayna pushed Ronda out of the way.
Yeah.
Like that. Like again, like it's just the Ronda rules matches, I guess, where they can just do whatever they want. Like you can interfere, it doesn't matter. Like the referee's right there. Like I saw the ref looking right dead at it, and just lets it slide.
Well, it's a different circumstance though, because Shayna is in Ronda's corner. She's Ronda's friend. She pushes Ronda, so it's not. She's pushing her friend. And you're not going to disqualify Shotzi for Shayna pushing Ronda, right? And
no, but you caused an interference in the match, though. That's still interference in the match because
it's interference in the match, but you're not attacking Shotzi. You're taking a move from Shotzi. Shotzi's attacking you, which is always allowed in wrestling. The people in the match are allowed to attack people outside the ring, but if that person outside the ring retaliates, then it's a disqualification. I actually didn't have a problem with that.
Gray zone. That's a gray zone there.
I disagree, John. I don't think it's a gray zone. I think it's cut and dry. What do you think?
No.
Yeah. Usually the ref cuts some slack when it's someone on their side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're altering a maneuver, though. You're injecting yourself into the match that you're not involved in, and you're blocking a move from happening.
But that's also like that's also like saying if like someone pulls the referee out by their legs, they should get disqualified too.
And they rarely do.
At least ejected or something, or at least like a talking to, not just whatever.
Well, I mean, that could be said for a lot of things, John. Like if somebody jumps on the apron, like if Shayna would have jumped on the apron,
they get a talking to at least
and distracted the referee. Well, how is the referee supposed to yell at Shayna when she's down on the ground selling because she just got hit with a dive from Shotzi?
Well, you can get down there afterwards and be like, hey, like, get out.
You're such a stickler for the goddamn rules, John. I don't think it really matters that much. I'm not mad at it.
If the rules don't matter, then, like,
they do matter. They do matter, but there should be no disqualification because Shayna didn't attack Shotzi. She took a move from Shotzi and pushed her own teammate down. That is not a disqualification. That is not grounds for disqualification. I mean, they took out like 3 fans when they did a dive. You're not arguing about that. Oh, they hit fans. They should be sued.
That interference.
Because Shayna like went to attack Shotzi like 2 or 3 times on the outside. Like she didn't succeed, so no disqualification. But still, like just run at somebody 2 or 3 times. Just let that slide too as well. I mean, it's just egregious how bad it is. Like so blatant.
I like that word.
Yeah. Yeah, so I suppose, John, but that's what Shayna is there for. She's in Ronda's corner to do interference things, heelish maneuvers.
Yeah, but like interference is like behind the referee's back like this, you know, like
it's egregious. It strains credulity.
Oh,
it's just a slap in the face. That's what it is. Like just do whatever you want. That's what it seems like.
I mean, if Shayna would have punched her in the face in front of the ref, I'd give it to you. But I think you're, like you said, it's a gray zone, John.
Yeah.
It's not cut and dry. It's not clear interference.
And, they cut Ronda some slack. She's such a groovy lady.
That's right.
Well, this happens a lot in Ronda matches for whatever reason.
Well, why not? You got to give a little leeway there to Ronda. It's Ronda.
Well, I think there's too much leeway, to be honest. Like, you got to tell her, hey, relax, you're outside interference all the time.
Well, I don't think it really hindered the quality of the match. I think the quality of the match was hindered by the match itself. So, any kind of weird stuff, didn't really matter. That DDT that Shotzi hit Ronda on the apron. Oof, my God, so bad.
Well, Shotzi's not great,
no.
They kind of shoved this down our throats, like she wasn't ready for this.
Yeah, Shotzi is really not very good. Watching the match tonight, I was like, wow. Ronda's pretty good, though. Ronda, when she did that roll to pick Shotzi up into the Piper's Pit, that's impressive. It's an impressive move. She does cool moves. Right. When Shotzi went off the top rope and Ronda kind of like grabbed her and slammed her, and rolled through, and they had to show the slow motion replay because it looked like a botch when she did it, but when you saw it slow motion, it looked really good. Which, I mean, that's not really what you want in pro wrestling. Like, you want it to look good on regular speed. But the fact that she pulled that move off, like, it was a cool move. You just didn't expect it.
Well, Ronda tries, but she needs, like, better competition. That's the problem.
And they've stuck her with Liv Morgan and now Shotzi.
Charlotte Flair. That was another video package there tonight.
They did. Is Becky Lynch on SmackDown now, or is she going back to Raw?
That's a great question. I think the best part of that
came back on SmackDown, right?
Bianca was talking in the press conference saying that at WrestleMania she wants either Charlotte or Rhea. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Specific.
So
should be
so I'm
Rhea.
thinking at the Rumble, I'm thinking Charlotte, Rhea at the end probably.
And Becky Ronda at Mania. I think Becky could stay on SmackDown.
Becky the Rumble? Wow.
Huh?
You think Becky might win the Rumble?
No, I don't think she has to win the Rumble to face Ronda at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Like,
probably the Chamber.
Has Rhea Ripley won a Rumble yet?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so.
I think she should win.
Remember, she was like down to the final two with Bianca, right? And she lost to Bianca. Right.
Let's do that. Let's do Rumble predictions. Royal Rumble predictions. That is our next WWE pay-per-view. We have got through Survivor Series, I believe, here. The Royal Rumble is the next one, and that's coming up January 28th in San Antonio, Texas. So we do have quite some time before the next WWE Premium Live event, which is nice, a nice little break. Women's Rumble, Men's Rumble. I just gave you my Women's Rumble prediction, Rhea Ripley. Anybody disagree? I think she's the best choice. Rhea, Bianca at WrestleMania, Rhea winning the Rumble. Has Becky won a Rumble?
Yes.
She has.
She came in at like the last second.
Yeah. And Charlotte has too. So it's Rhea's
Charlotte's
time.
won two, hasn't she?
I don't think so. No, not two.
Asuka won.
I think Charlotte's come close. Asuka won the first one.
Charlotte's
then
won
Becky,
at least one. There was the one where like Shayna was like the odds-on favorite, but then Charlotte won. There's that one,
right?
Which eliminated her at the end.
Ronda won last year.
Last year was Ronda. Yeah.
Bianca won 1 year. The year before.
Yep. The year before.
Bianca won in 2021.
There's only been 4. And so
I will tell you here.
Asuka, Charlotte, Becky, Bianca, and Ronda last year. So that's 5.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
I think there's only been 5, yeah.
Yeah. So Rhea could win. I could see Charlotte coming back and winning it.
Yeah, me too.
It could easily happen.
Charlotte won in 2020.
She could easily win a second time. And I wouldn't mind it, actually, because, like, she hasn't been on TV. When did she leave? Was it for her honeymoon? Her wedding? Was the last time before?
It's been a long time. Yeah.
She did the rematch. Was it WrestleMania Backlash against Ronda?
Yeah, so that was, like, in May?
Yeah. May or June.
Yeah, so it's been a while. So if she comes back at the Rumble, she could definitely win the Rumble and go on to face Bianca or Ronda. They could do it again.
I don't think you have Charlotte win the Rumble. I think you have new blood. Like we said, there's only been like 5 Rumble winners in the past. I don't think it's time to repeat.
Rhea is a good pick, especially on the run she's on now.
It's got to be Rhea.
Well,
I think it's got to be Rhea.
That's the question here. Like, I think we're pretty much set Becky and Ronda, right? That's SmackDown, for sure. But Raw, is it going to be Rhea versus Bianca, or is it going to be Charlotte versus Bianca? To me, the bigger match is Charlotte.
It could be a triple threat.
I guess. I feel like we've been here before, to be honest. Or was it Io, I think, possibly, in NXT, remember?
Charlotte and Rhea have wrestled at Mania.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte and Rhea have a past. You get that involved. I think you could do a triple threat.
Charlotte won that match.
You
too.
do a thing where Rhea still wins the Rumble, but Charlotte somehow inserts herself into a spot. Maybe she wins the title at Elimination Chamber, and then Bianca gets involved. It's a triple threat at Mania. There are a lot of options, you know. Edge won the Rumble, and then didn't wind up wrestling Roman one-on-one at WrestleMania. Bryan Danielson jumped into that match, made it a triple threat. You can win the Rumble and then have somebody else involved in your match and make it a triple threat. There is a precedent for that.
Shawn Michaels signed his name onto the contract of the Triple H Chris Benoit
there you go.
match, and they'd be like, well, he signed his name on the contract, so he's in the match.
Well, that is how it happened, isn't it?
Yeah, he just super kicked Benoit and then just signed his name. They're like, nothing we can do about it.
Well, I guess it's a triple threat now. Shawn Michaels just wrote his name on the piece of paper.
The best part about that is Shawn complained about Mick Foley being in the triple threat with Austin and The Rock at WrestleMania 15, saying you can't do triple threats as the main event WrestleMania. And then lo and behold, what happens years later, Shawn Michaels gets himself put into the main event WrestleMania triple threat.
Well, it's different when it's Shawn Michaels,
Yeah.
you know. And he was probably high. He was too high at WrestleMania 15 to know what the hell was going on.
He wasn't even at WrestleMania 15.
No, but he was at home high.
Just be like, what's going on? I don't believe this.
Talking shit, doing
that
shoot
never
interviews.
even happened. Mankind wasn't the referee in that match, I think?
Was that from that shoot interview that Shawn did when he was all high?
Like with the
that was actually,
tobacco?
I think, Mick's book, actually. Mick
Oh,
wrote
was it?
about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, Women's Rumble prediction, I'm going with Rhea Ripley.
I'm
What are
going
you
to say
going
Charlotte
with?
Flair.
All right, John?
Yeah, Charlotte.
Okay. And how about men's? That's tough. That's very tough.
Because if you say The Rock, you know.
I think maybe The Rock. It makes a lot of
I'm going
sense.
with The Rock, too.
I mean, why not go with The Rock?
If it's not The Rock.
If it's not The Rock,
I think Cody Rhodes.
I think it's Cody. That's a safe bet. Yeah.
But that's fair, yeah.
But my official pick for the men's Royal Rumble will be Dwayne The Rock Johnson coming in at number 30, winning the Rumble, and then going on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for all the gold. I think we will see The Rock at the Rumble. I think he will win the Rumble. And then will he tie the record of 3 with Stone Cold?
I guess he would, right?
He would, right?
I mean, if you count the Rumble 2000 win, because some people say he didn't really win that one.
No, he won that one.
Because his feet. I mean, he won that one, but he shouldn't have won that one, right? Because his feet did touch.
But he officially won.
But he officially did win that one.
Okay,
yeah.
so he's won 2. And if he were to win a 3rd, he would tie Stone Cold Steve Austin as the only 2 guys in the history of the WWE to win 3 Royal Rumbles.
Wait.
And if anybody's going to tie Stone Cold, it should be The Rock.
The Rock won a second Rumble?
I thought so. Has The Rock not won 2 Rumbles?
Once in a lifetime wasn't for the championship. And
Cena won
he was
the
the champion going into the
that
match against Cena at 29 because he beat CM Punk.
Cena won the Rumble.
Yeah, Cena won the Rumble.
Yeah.
I think The Rock only
Yeah,
won
you're
the
right.
one.
In 2000, I think that was it. He only won that one. So, yeah, they could do that. He could just get
Cena's
they
won the
love
Rumble
doing that, by the way.
What?
Twice. They love doing 2s. Brock's
Has
won
The Rock
twice.
only won it once? That's crazy because there's so many guys that have won it twice at this point.
Triple H.
And they'd love to add that. Yeah.
Edge.
Yeah, I feel almost for sure like The Rock's going to win now because he's got to add to the 2 club.
It's true. Shawn Michaels has 2. He won back-to-back, 95, 96. Stone Cold Steve Austin won in 97, 98, and then again in 2001. Vince McMahon won it in 99. The Rock won it in 2000. Triple H won in 2002, and he won it again, didn't he? 2016. Triple H is a 2-time winner. Shawn Michaels is a 2-time winner.
That happened.
Batista.
What's that?
Remember the title was on the line. Roman had to defend the title in the Rumble,
Yeah. Batista is a 2-time winner. Brock Lesnar is a 2-time winner. Won it in 2003, and then won it last year, right in 2022. I believe Randy won it in 2017 and in 2009. Randy's a 2-time winner. Edge won it in 2010, then won it again in 2021. But that's a newer trend where they have guys win it twice. So The Rock, yeah, that's funny. I thought that he had won it twice. He only won it once in 2000. So, yeah, for sure, The Rock winning, it's a pretty solid pick.
Yeah, could happen.
But watch, Becky's probably going to win the Rumble, though.
Should be
the other way with it.
The first women's 2-time winner, Becky Lynch?
I could see that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Becky or Charlotte. Yeah.
I don't think they do.
Makes sense.
I don't think they do 2-time women's winners yet. I think they wait. You pass it around a little bit. Give one to Rhea Ripley. She's one of the top women in the company. If you look at the winners, right, you've got Asuka, Charlotte, Becky, Bianca, Ronda. Those are the top women in the company. You want Rhea Ripley to be in that mix, right? If you're the WWE, you see Rhea Ripley, the talent, the microphone skills, the look, the wrestling skills. She's got everything going for her. You want her to be on their level, and a Rumble win would definitely help facilitate that.
And she's still pretty young, too.
Yeah.
That always helps.
Yeah.
She's still in her 20s.
Is she really?
I feel like because she was maybe her late 20s.
What? She's 26?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, I was going to say she was in early 20s at WrestleMania against Charlotte, so yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Tons of potential.
Yeah, she's the future, right? Bianca Belair's 33, you know?
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley is quite a bit younger than Bianca Belair. That makes a difference. Rhea Ripley, you got to bring her up. That's amazing that, she's in her mid-20s and she is wrestling people in their, early to mid-30s. All of them. And she is on their level. So you got to look at Rhea Ripley as the future. And in that line of thinking, I think you should have her win the Royal Rumble.
Solid pick.
Rhea Ripley and The Rock to win the men's Rumble.
All the R's.
Why not? And we'll find out, right? We'll find out in January, at the end of January.
Next year.
At the Royal Rumble in 2023. But Roman Reigns versus The Rock for WrestleMania. If you don't do it this year, you're never going to do it.
Yeah. In LA, right? Too.
Yeah, in LA.
Yeah.
The Tribal Chief, the run that he's on, head of the table, all that stuff. Like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. And if you don't do it now, whatever you're doing is second best. This whole story, this whole gimmick, everything that Roman Reigns has been doing for the past 5 years has been leading to this one match against his cousin, The Rock. Everything he's done has been leading to this. So, if they don't do it, whatever they give us will be the B story. It won't be what the A version is. And at WrestleMania, we want the A version. So I'm hoping for The Rock. Because if any story called for The Rock, this story calls for The Rock. Right? Like, we need him here.
Right.
This is where he fits in. Him and Roman, the promos, the build, it's going to be fantastic. I really hope we get it, and I can't wait for it. And selfishly, if The Rock's going to be at Royal Rumble and he's setting up for WrestleMania, there's only one pay-per-view in between and happens to be in my hometown, wouldn't mind seeing The Rock show up at Elimination Chamber just for a quick hello and finally, but I know he's busy, so I'm not holding my breath for The Rock, but just saying, if The Rock is around the WWE, you never know where he might make his appearances in the build-up to WrestleMania, right? I mean, he's going to be building the match. I would guess that he wouldn't just show up at the Rumble and then not show up again leading up to the Rumble. So maybe, just maybe, he'd show up at Elimination Chamber to stare down Roman Reigns or something, because if he did that, the place would explode. Montreal has not seen The Rock in quite some time. It would be pretty damn cool to see him here, right? I mean,
raucous.
Imagine seeing The Rock. And I'd like, I'm taking my son to that show, so I would really like him to see The Rock, It'd be cool if he saw The Rock for him.
Well, when you guys think about it, we have the best chance, right? Montreal, because they'll be at SmackDown and Elimination Chamber. So, in terms of chances of seeing The Rock, Montreal has the best chance for it.
So maybe. But I think the people at the Royal Rumble have the best chance because I think The Rock's going to win the Rumble next year. And that is our WWE Survivor Series post show. Thank you to everybody tuning in here. Big shout out to our members, Jason Pete in the chat tonight, Harold Schneider, our super chat leader. Thank you, Harold. Doug Hepburn, all the members of the team. If you have not joined, join.ringsidereport.net. Join.ringsidereport.net is the best way to support the Ringside Report Network. Become a member, support the channel. You can also go to donate.ringsidereport.net, donate.ringsidereport.net, and you can buy the merch over at merch.ringsidereport.net. It's been a good day, decent Survivor Series, and a big win for France. All right? Big win. Big win today over Denmark, and France advances into the knockout stage of the World Cup. What do you say?
Well, just a couple other things I wanted to mention too. One, I saw the Argentina game. That was fantastic. I don't know if you saw that one.
No.
And well, that was a good game. But Sasha didn't show up. Fans asked for it, and I don't know if you noticed, they kind of turned the fans off a bit there when that happened.
What do you mean?
They're saying we won Sasha, and then suddenly just died.
Oh, did they? I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Well, they're in Boston too. It's her turf.
People keep expecting Sasha Banks to come back. I don't think she's coming back.
Well, Naomi.
Her either.
Well, I think Naomi at some point, but yeah, not now. It looks like. And Sasha, I guess not ever possibly. I mean, she's filed for trademarks for her own names.
I meant Naomi at the Rumble. Sorry.
Fine, Naomi at the Rumble. Like, she'll come back at some point. I mean, what else is she going to do with Sasha? It feels like she just wants to have a movie career now, it looks like. And maybe she might wrestle the odd match here or there or something, but it doesn't seem like wrestling's a priority anymore.
I could see her in AEW.
Well, they're saying AEW or Japan.
Yeah, right? I think AEW. That's where a lot of the talent is right now. It's getting more and more interesting. They got Saraya, they got Britt Baker, they got Jamie Hayter. Their division is getting more interesting. Toni Storm. Ruby Riott, I think, was injured, but she'll come back. They've got a little division going now. AEW's women's division was kind of weak at a certain point with the Rihos and even Hikaru Shida. It just wasn't an exciting division. Up until Britt Baker won the title, then it got a little more interesting. Thunder Rosa, things like that. But now, especially with Toni Storm climbing to the level that she's been at, Jamie Hayter getting as popular as she is, and of course Saraya coming in, the former Paige, who looked really good. That division is really interesting, and I could see a Sasha Banks being tempted to go and wrestle there because there's really some top talent that you can go and have great, fun matches with.
Jade.
Yeah, the great Jade Cargill.
Sasha Banks, Jade Cargill food.
I wouldn't mind. I would not mind. There's stuff going on in AEW right now. Their women's division, I don't think it's as strong as WWE's, but it's getting closer. Right? It's getting closer. And if they had Sasha Banks, it'd be pretty close. It'd be real close. So, it's not bad.
Well, wait and see. I think it's disappointing for Sasha because I feel like there's so more she could have done in WWE, but I guess she just doesn't want to be there anymore. It's unfortunate, but
wait and
see what happens.
That the opportunities that she wanted were always going to go to either Becky or Charlotte or someone else ahead of her. She was tired of just being in nothing singles matches or nothing tag team matches. She evaluated her position in the company, and she said, maybe I could do better elsewhere.
I mean, that is a possibility because if you look at it, that's a fact, right? Sasha was always going to be third to Becky and Charlotte, and sometimes not even third, fifth or sixth to some other people
with
in the way.
Bianca there now, and Rhea and Bayley now coming back.
Yeah, it's crowded. It's crowded on top, and WWE didn't seem keen on putting Sasha back in the top spot, right? Maybe Sasha felt she was getting Alexa Bliss, right? Because Bliss, like, she was champion for a long time. She was one of the top people, and now she's just kind of in the division, and you don't really envision her as the champion again. She wouldn't really fit with the Bianca and the Rhea Ripley. Like, it's too much.
Yeah. Honestly, depending on how much she costs, I wouldn't be surprised if she got cut eventually down the line.
Yeah, she's not the star that she was for the company a few years ago.
Didn't bring anything to the War Games match.
And Sasha may have felt that she was being marginalized too. It's possible.
Well, I think it's unfortunate. To me, like, Sasha was one of the best women wrestlers like WWE had.
Mm-hmm.
So to lose her, that's a big loss, I think.
Yeah. But I think they've lost her. I don't think she's coming back. I would expect her to wrestle for AEW over WWE in 2023, if I had to bet.
Well, a positive note, at least from tonight, it was kind of nice during the AJ Styles Finn Balor match. They mentioned the British Commonwealth Championship because Finn Balor and Carl Anderson are former champions, and I guess they put that over in their history. Yeah.
Where did they win this?
Kind of neat. Oh, this was probably in 2005 or 6 or something. I believe Finn won in Ireland. I want to say Carl Anderson won in the States at some point.
Okay.
I want to say maybe Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So
how did it
that was kind of neat.
How did it get away from those guys? Like, how did it get to... Did Drew Onyx beat one of those guys?
I'm pretty sure Drew beat Finn at some point, yeah.
Okay.
And I think Carl beat Finn. So I think that's how it all kind of worked out.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
And then
you're a former champion.
Which the lineage.
Yeah, exactly. When I keep putting over the fact that that's the biggest title ever won, tonight kind of proves it tonight. They actually put it over in WWE as a major championship.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. They even mentioned Finn Balor's championships in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They mentioned New Japan Pro Wrestling on WWE TV tonight, which they didn't used to do when Vince was around, right? That's a Triple H thing, right? I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, for sure.
Different.
So it's nice. Nice, those little things.
Yeah, it's cool.
And, like, did you see that whole MJF, Conor McGregor Twitter debate thing? Like
MJF and Conor McGregor or MJF and Paddy Pimblett?
I believe it was MJF and Conor, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh. When was this?
I think this was either Friday or possibly Thursday. At some point, there was some beef or something. I think it started off with Paddy, right? You mentioned Paddy, and then for whatever reason, it got into Conor, and Conor, I think, did the whole, like, who the F is this guy kind of thing.
Okay.
And then I think MJF obviously fired back on him or something. I didn't check it all, but I imagine you had some info on it.
No. I don't know. It seems more like MJF is going after Paddy Pimblett and Conor just saying a dollar store Conor is still worth millions. Let's go, young Paddy. Don't know who this other clown is. So Conor, just knows who Paddy Pimblett is, and he's commenting on it. And he doesn't know who MJF is, so that's fine. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if MJF wrote something back or something about Conor.
Conor? I don't know.
Because if I'm not mistaken, he wrote something about, like, soccer's not a real sport. I wouldn't be surprised he wrote like, MMA is not a real sport.
Yeah, I don't think he did that.
Far.
He didn't do that. So I don't know what you're talking about.
That's too bad.
I don't. There's not much. There's not much there, John. You're trying to find a story. I don't think there's anything there. Right?
Well, it's always fun when there's something going on with, as we see with Ronda, like, it's always fun when you see someone from UFC interact with like wrestling personalities. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where the Paddy Pimblett MJF stuff started, but I don't know. They seem to be going at it on Twitter. I don't think it's going to lead to anything unless Paddy Pimblett wants to get into pro wrestling, but I really don't think that he does because he's got a pretty good future in the UFC. Maybe Conor McGregor wants to get into pro wrestling one day, but probably not AEW, if I were to guess. Right? If I were to guess Conor McGregor going to pro wrestling, it would be WWE, where the big, big money is.
The big boys play.
Even then, I don't think they would pay him enough. Although they got Mayweather for a match, so you never know. Conor at WrestleMania would be pretty big.
It's Braun Strowman.
It's not going to happen, though. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. So, I don't know. It doesn't lead to anything, John. Just some Twitter talk. Who cares?
Well,
it's
I wouldn't be
MJF.
surprised if we see Conor. If we see Conor in wrestling one day, I think it's going to happen.
I don't know.
Yeah. He's got like a movie career going now. He's super, super rich. He can keep fighting forever, even if he loses. He can keep fighting and making tons of money doing that. I don't know if Conor ever goes into pro wrestling.
Yeah, like he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's like, I'm not gonna sell. You know, like it just feels like that. Like I don't want to sell a punch from some guy. Like I'm not gonna.
I'm not saying
that.
a career. I'm just saying like an appearance.
But just the suspension of disbelief. Like I don't think he wants to participate in that.
Yeah, he's not a pro wrestling guy. I don't think he would go along.
Like Ronda would.
Yeah, Ronda gets it. Conor is not a pro wrestling fan. I don't think he would get involved. Like Mayweather was a wrestling fan. Ronda's a wrestling fan. I don't think Conor is. He doesn't know who MJF is, you know? He's not a wrestling fan.
To be fair, I mean, you got to really know wrestling to know who MJF is. Like,
I guess.
WWE is the mainstream stuff. Like,
sure.
I mean,
but,
MJF is slowly getting there.
But Conor has said some things about WWE where he doesn't really respect them or respect anything that they do, and I don't see it happening.
Did he take a photo with Triple H and Stephanie though?
Huh?
Didn't he take like a photo? Like
that was Nate Diaz.
Or was it Nate Diaz? Okay.
Yeah. Come on. All right. That's it. I'll be back Thursday night, 8 p.m. for Ringside Report MMA, where we know the difference between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. Okay, John? I'm joking. John's not happy.
Well,
he's mad.
It doesn't really matter. Like, you know, they're both gonna get beat up in WWE. So
I don't think either of them are gonna go to WWE. I don't think Nate Diaz would play ball either. Nate Diaz can't get
promos though.
Nate Diaz can't get into a hallway without getting into a fight with somebody. Nate Diaz would fight everybody in WWE and win, but he really shouldn't. So I'll be back here Thursday night at 8 p.m. to talk some MMA. We've got UFC Orlando coming up on Saturday. It'll be Wonder Boy versus Kevin Holland in the main event, which is a pretty cool main event in the UFC's welterweight division there. Big fight for Kevin Holland and a big fight for Wonder Boy. I'm looking forward to that fight. That's a cool main event from the UFC coming up next Saturday night, so we will preview that fight card coming up Thursday night at 8 p.m. right here on the Ringside Report Network. Johnny and I will be back for some pro wrestling talk on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, as we are each and every Friday night, right after SmackDown for Wrestling Uncensored. And, our next wrestling post-show, we've been doing a lot of them recently with the Crown Jewel and Full Gear and now Survivor Series, but we are on a little bit of a break until the Royal Rumble in January. So no more big pro wrestling pay-per-views until January, but we do have a UFC pay-per-view in 2 weeks' time. December the 10th in Las Vegas will be UFC 282, Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz for the now vacant UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. So definitely check back with us in a couple of weeks for another big watch-along party. But, of course, every week we are on Thursday nights at 8 for MMA and then Friday nights at 10 for pro wrestling. Thanks to everybody tuning in here to the Survivor Series post-show And a big shout out once again to our members that I see in the chat: Jason Pete, Harold Schneider, Doug Hepburn. You guys keep this show and all the shows going, especially Harold here tonight, dropping the super chat and supporting the Ringside Report Network. Thank you, Harold. And thank you to everybody tuning in now, later, whenever. If you haven't supported financially, you could definitely support by subscribing to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. Everything helps the Ringside Report Network, and we appreciate it very much. We'll see you again Thursday night for Ringside Report MMA.
Please join in and give your support to Ringside Report Network. We've been providing expert coverage and commentary on both pro wrestling and MMA for over 15 years. Go to ringsidereport.net/support to find out more ways to support the channel.